Hi, this is Susan Black with Tailored Expressions. I wanted to stop in today and talk to you about these new dies from Tailored Expressions and their line of Designer Dangles. A few months ago, they released a kit to help you make the faux leather earrings that are so on trend right now. And this is just an extension of that. They're releasing 3 new die sets. The bigger the better. They come in several different sizes, but this shape. Free flow, again, several different sizes, but this shape. And then Shapeshifter, which has several different shapes in it. But those are all dies, and then they're also releasing some new vegan faux leather. And I want to show them to you today and how I made these earrings. So let's get started. This is, again, from the Shapeshifters. I love this one. It's very cool, but you do need to know how to use a jump ring to put them together. So I went ahead and cut them out of the cork from the original kit. To get jump rings, you want to make sure that you can find the actual slit where they open, and you want to push them front to back to open them up like that. And that's the best way to use them. It will keep your wire from knowing where it's been, where it's supposed to be at. It also keeps its circular shape that way if you spread them apart front to back. So I take my wire and I hold it with my pliers, and then I use my thumb on the other side to help push. You could use 2 pliers and do that, but for these earrings, or for these jump rings, Tailored Expressions has brought in, they're really nice weight. It's called a gauge. Jump rings come in different gauges. Like an 18 gauge is kind of heavy and it's harder to work with. I like to work with like a 21 gauge, and I think that must be what these are. I'm not exactly sure, but super pliable, able to manipulate them with your hands. So I just want to show you with something a little bit bigger. This is memory wire that as a beader I use to make bracelets out of. So imagine that this is a jump ring. I just brought this out so it'd be bigger and easier to see. And you want to move your jump rings like this. So front to back, I always think about it. Never like this. You don't want to pull the wire apart from each other because you are manipulating that circular form that you have. So you want to move them front to back, and that's how you put them, and then push them back together that way. That way you could end up with an oval if you pull them apart. So front to back, and that's the same thing when you go to use your earring wires. I always take my earring wires and hold them with my pointer finger and my thumb, and then I use my needle nose pliers to manipulate them and to pull them forward. And again, I'm not pulling it out of its circular shape. I'm just pushing it up or away from you, whichever works best for you, and then push it right back to its spot. That way you're not really having to work to get a circle back. So as long as you take that wire and you push it front to back, and you're pushing it that way as opposed to pulling the circle out of its actual shape. So that's how you use a jump ring, and that's how you make these cool earrings. I know the designers have tons of fun things to do with them. One other set that I made are these, and the dies are cut so that 2 of them cut the holes for the jump ring, and then this one cuts 1 hole and not the other one, so that at the end of your earring you don't have an empty hole there in the middle of that chevron. But if you want to do something like I've done here, where I'm adding a dangle at the bottom, you'll want to cut an extra one of this and not use this one. So that's how I did these. I cut the purple one out of a double again, and I used a jump ring just to add a little bit of bling. These little bling pieces, again, you can find them at Hobby Lobby, anywhere, Michael's, anywhere that also has a jewelry section. So I'll put those aside. Let's go on to these. These are from the kit called Free Flow. These are the 2 smaller sizes. There's bigger ones also, but I really love them. And I wanted to show you, I would wear them like this, wearing the mirrored image of these earrings. So I wanted to go through with you how I cut those. Get these out of the way. Bring in my machine. I have a Sizzix machine. And I normally like to cut with my faux leather. I like to cut on the right side. That's my favorite way. It's really a personal opinion, but you will go through and cut it from the right side. And then to get the mirrored image, you will take that and then cut on what I call the wrong side of the leather. If you're talking fabric, you know what I mean. One thing to remember is to always make sure you poke that hole out of that center part. It's easy sometimes when it comes out of your die to forget that that little piece of leather still exists somewhere. If it's stuck in your die here, even just one layer's worth, the next earring won't cut very well. So just make sure you do that. Then I'm gonna take the die, lay it on the wrong side of the leather, and I will cut that. Sorry, get my machine out of the way here. And doing that gives you this mirrored image. If there's ever just a little piece of string that stays attached, which happens sometimes there's a piece that just doesn't want to quite cut, then you will just go around and I take a detail scissors and I cut just to trim that up. Just a little bit, the little fibers sometimes get them, they just like to stick and I like to get them out of the way. So that's how I get the mirrored image on those earrings from those dies. And I wanted to show you really quick how I got these cute little rhinestones on there. These are, again, from Michael's, Hobby Lobby. These exact ones were from Hobby Lobby, but they're called flat back crystals, and you can find them all over the place as long as it's a section that carries jewelry. I like to use these along with a glue, totally up to you what you use. I have a hypo cement. It is made for jewelry, it's made for crystals. I just happen to have it because, like I said, I also like to bead. So I like to use this, and then what I do is I will take and put 3 dots of glue going down the edge here. And then I will put my, this is where I should have reading glasses and I forget to pull them out and use them. And take a jewel picker and I will pick up some of these rhinestones. And I love using the jewel picker for this because it will just place right where I want it. And then I can place all 3 of them that way. And then that way I can use that as my guide to do the other side. So that's how I did those. That's how I put those on there. And again, you pull out your stamping supplies and you can use them for this project too. So let's get that out of the way. Last thing I wanted to go over with you is how I did embossing to create these earrings. These are from that colored leather that you can buy. There's a purple, a teal, and a couple of tones of pink in it. I really like these. And I really wanted to try stamping on this because this leather is really smooth, a lot smoother than the metallic tone leather that Taylor Expression is releasing. This is really smooth, so I thought it would be really nice for stamping on, so I'm going to show you how I did that. A lot of us in our stamping supply have a MISTI or whatever stamp positioning tool that you have. This helps a ton with this. So what I did was I took the Tailored Expressions Big Butterfly and I just put it in my MISTI wherever I wanted it, didn't really matter. And I did tape my MISTI paper down in there because once I stamp this, if this shifts, this won't help me anymore. So just make sure that when you put your stamp in there that you go ahead and tape these down. I inked my butterfly up with a little bit of lavender glaze. I just wanted a light tone color just to give me a pattern on there. Pressed it down, and then I took a scrap piece of cardstock and used that die from Bigger the Better to cut out a piece, what I call my negative piece. And then I took it around the butterfly on here and I kind of moved it around and I decided what my favorite spot was. There were several spots that I liked, but this is the one I landed on. And I went ahead and put it down and then I used some tape to hold this in place. And that will help me put my piece of leather in there the same spot every time. So I went ahead and taped that down with some, I have tape here and here. Went ahead and taped that down. And then I took I took some EK Success Powder Tool and I generously covered this piece of faux leather. And this is not even the color that leather is. If I put the other piece of leather next to it, that will show you how generously I've been covering this. And when I'm all done, I'll just use a Swiffer to get this back off the leather. But you'll want to generously cover that to make sure any of the oils from your fingers or just from the leather, faux leather itself, do not stick to the embossing powder. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this and put it in that opening. I have a little bit of adhesive underneath of there. I put it right in the middle underneath so that it will hold this in place, because I have found that double stamping this is the best outcome. So I'm gonna take my Versamark pad, ink this up. I'll stamp this down. Once is fine, but especially if you don't have a stamp positioning tool, this twice is just that much better. One step better on that. So I have that in there, and then I'm not a tweezers person, but for this project that's about the only way you can complete this. So I take my tweezers and I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up. I like to put my tweezers right through the opening of that earring. Peel that up, get this out of the way. Bring in some scratch paper, and what I like to do is to hold on to my earring piece so that I don't have the backing, that felt backing, full of embossing powder. So I will shake that on, tap it off, and I do tap quite a bit because I want to get a lot of that excess off. And then make sure your heat tool is well warmed up, like run it for about a minute before you take it to this to heat it up. But this that I used right now is the Tailored Expressions Fine Detail Gold Embossing Powder. That's what I used on these earrings. And then I will take it to my heat tool and heat that up. If at all, when you're heating, you find that there are pieces that look dull or grainy, that means it's not all the way heated. So, and not all the way embossed. So make sure you heat it until everything turns shiny. So I'm gonna set that aside, and I will come back to my finished piece so that you don't have to listen to my heat tool. So it looks like that, and here is the set that I have done. So this is the colored faux leather with gold. Then also I did a pair that is the pink tone of that leather with the Tailored Expressions silver. And then one last one that I don't have earring wires on yet is the Tailored Expressions white. I like them all. I really think the gold is my favorite. I tried rose gold too. It wasn't my favorite as much as the gold just really popped on that teal and the silver on the pink. So I hope you try it. I hope you give these earrings a try and see what you like to do. And we can't wait to see what projects you make. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.